Olá pessoal, bem-vindos ao Kiai Marketing Secrets. Hoje tenho um amigozaço, tenho um amigo fantástico. O nome dele é Stu McLaren. Ele é o Mr. Membership.
Todos os dias o empreendedor tem de efetuar 3 vendas. A venda a si mesmo, a venda à sua equipa e a venda ao cliente. Para que isto aconteça com a maior eficácia possível, precisamos de algo muito forte: marketing. Marketing é a única resposta possível para fazer crescer pequenas empresas que não têm um músculo financeiro para enfrentar os tubarões do mercado. Por isso, a pergunta é: como é que podemos fazer um marketing que seja poderoso e ao mesmo tempo não esvazie os nossos bolsos? O meu nome é Ricardo Teixeira, sou empreendedor há mais de 2 décadas e um apaixonado por marketing. Todas as semanas procurei partilhar estratégias e táticas de marketing que procurem responder a esta pergunta. Bem-vindo ao Kiai Marketing Secrets.
O Stu tem uma história absolutamente incrível e eu vou guardar, como é óbvio, para a entrevista, mas vocês nem imaginam a história que ele tem e a pessoa que ele é e, sobretudo, o génio que ele tem em termos de marketing. Portanto, ladies and gentlemen, Stu McLaren. Okay. Did you understand anything? Did you understand any word besides the membership?
I heard Mr. Membership. I heard Stu McLaren. I heard marketing secrets. Outside of that, but I was with you. I'm with you.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. So, okay, let's go for the Stu McLaren. The man, not the marketeer. The man. You were born in England, right?
Yes. I grew up in England, just south of London in a place called Gravesend, Kent. So we always joke because my wife is born from Oxford. So I always joke that I'm just a commoner. I'm just a commoner. She's like the upper echelon. But so I was born in Gravesend, Kent and lived there till I was 6 years old.
And then you traveled to Canada?
Yeah, then my family, we moved to Canada. And primarily because my parents just wanted more space, quite frankly, more space to, raise my sister and I, and so we moved to Canada, and so I've been in Canada ever since. I love the country, but I grew up out in the middle of nowhere, so like cows on one side, corn on the other type thing. So I was a country boy. And, but I love my upbringing. I love love being outside, and that's still with me today. I love being outside. I love being out in nature, and definitely a large influence of that was growing up.
Yeah, I love that you, and I started from there because people don't realize, right now you have a $10 million company. It took like 3 years from the moment you start this company, not the other companies, but this company, right? 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing growth. It's amazing growth. We're already going there, but people forget that this doesn't happen overnight. It has a backup story, and so it's funny that you were saying that you were like a country boy.
Still am, buddy.
Country boy, like the 3 Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
And then how did the marketing, the entrepreneur side attack you? Where did you cut the virus?
Well, I think I've always had an entrepreneurial side to me. I don't think I was always clear on what that would look like and how that would develop. But, right from the get-go, I grew up with 2 parents who were incredible influences on my life. But they both worked a lot. My dad, he worked in a high school with kids with special needs from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then 4 nights a week, he would work in a group home with people with special needs from 8 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know when he slept. Like I seriously don't know when he slept, but he was always at like every basketball game and soccer game. And then my mom was the same way. My mom worked in a elementary school with kids with autism from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And then the 3 nights a week that my dad wasn't working nights, my mom was working in a fine dining restaurant. And so they always worked. That was, part of the principles that we grew up was that if you want to get ahead in life, you got to work hard. But the reality of it is, Ricardo, is that when I got to about age 12, I started to realize that there were people that were working far less than my parents, and yet they were more financially successful than my parents. So there was this disconnect, right? Like my parents are saying the way to be successful is to work hard. And yet there was nobody working harder than my parents, and we weren't the most financially successful. So I started asking like different types of questions. And I think that's what ultimately led me down the entrepreneurial path, which was, realizing that the way we've been brought up, most people have been brought up is that you put your head down, you work really hard, and at the end of it, you'll have success. Yeah. But I'm here to tell you that there's other alternative paths to achieving success, and a lot more success in far easier ways. And one of those paths, 100%, is the entrepreneurial path.
Wow. And you started high school giving lectures, right? That's the first time that you felt like connected with an audience, and you felt like, maybe this is like the way or something.
Yeah, well, so I went to, I did what I was supposed to do. I went to university, I got my honors business degree, and they basically trained us to go into the corporate world. And, I graduated, I signed on to work for a big company here in Canada. My parents, they were just like, oh my gosh, yes, like we've done it. Like he's on his way. He's gonna be successful. And then I remember like I had signed on the dotted line, and I had a couple months before I was officially to begin this job. And I just had this gut feeling like, this is not what I want to do. And I could see my future playing out, which was like, I'm in a cubicle, and I'm told when I can vacation, and I've got to be at work during certain hours. I wear a shirt and tie. Like none of that appealed to me. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And so ultimately I made the decision to resign from that corporate job before I started. And I'll never forget, like one of my good friends, Braden, turning to me he was with me when I made this decision. And I said to him, I'm going to resign. Oh, sorry, my dog's going crazy. I said to him, I'm gonna resign from Maple Leaf Foods. He's like, dude, that's a great job. And I'm like, I know, but it's not a good fit. And then he said the question, which made me feel so small and so stupid in that moment, because I just didn't know the answer. But he said, well, what are you gonna do? And I was like, I have no idea. And there's a lesson in this though. Like sometimes we don't take any action because we don't know what we want to do. But there's value in taking action when you know what you don't want to do. And I knew I didn't want to go into the corporate world. And anything other than going into the corporate world was better than going into the corporate world, right? And so in that, I made a decision, and I had trust in myself that I'd figure something out. And that's ultimately what happened. So, in university, I was in this honors business program. It was a very, competitive program. And my first year, I actually got the pink slip that said, you may no longer proceed in the honors business program, because my grades weren't good enough. I was playing soccer, for the university, and that had more of my attention than school did. And I didn't get the grades that I needed to get to be able to go on to the next year. And so long story short, I talked to a few professors. I did a bunch of stuff during my first summer to bump my grades up just enough to get in. And then second year, I barely scraped by, but third year, everything changed for me. And I went from bottom of the class to top of the class because I started in one of the classes, we watched a video of this guy. His name is Doug Hall. And he started a company where he helps Fortune 500 companies come up with new product ideas. And so he had all these creative thinking ideas and techniques that he would walk people through. And in that, they'd come up with very innovative product ideas. But in the video, he's in like a Hawaiian shirt, shorts. He's shooting Nerf guns at these corporate CEOs. And I was like, who is this guy? This is amazing. This looks like so much fun. And so I started looking into him more. He had written a book called Jumpstart Your Brain. And long story short, it taught you how to think more creatively. And I started applying what I learned in that book to my schoolwork, to my relationships, to when I'd apply for jobs. And all of these things started to materialize in my life. My grades went up. I met the woman of my dreams, now my wife. And I got the jobs that I wanted. Like all of these things were coming into my life because I learned how to think more creatively. And in that, I realized like whatever we want in life, we're just one idea away from it. Like we instead of like saying, oh no, I can't get this. Oh no, I can't do this. Oh no, I can't afford this. All we need to do is ask ourselves, how? How could we afford this? How could I do this? And what happens is you turn your brain on and your brain starts looking for solutions. And so all of that served me so well. So when I didn't go into the corporate world, I was like, well, what I've learned is tremendously valuable. I'm going to teach it to other students. So I started going around and speaking at high schools and colleges and teaching students how to think more creatively. And that was my first business, and it was a tough road in the beginning. I mean, there's no harder audience to speak to than a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah. That's a tough crowd. We talk about like, but yeah, but I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
I used to teach karate in high schools to get some leads for my dojos. And it was a tough crowd, very tough crowd.
Dude, yeah. I mean, I learned pretty quickly that I had to do something to grab people's attention every 2 to 3 minutes, because otherwise you'd lose them. And then once you lost them, it was game over from there.
Yeah, game over. That's amazing.
But that was the beginning. That was the beginning of my entrepreneurial career.
And that was about like, your age was like 18?
Hey, we don't need to go there, Ricardo. No. So that was back 2002.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so from there, how did you find, I don't know if you had, well, I don't know that story. Did you have like an offline business or something like that? Or did you find the internet, because the internet was, was blowing, Google was showing up, and YouTube is like 2005. How did the internet world came to your world?
So I love how you put that in context. So Stu, you're older than YouTube. Yeah, thank you for that, Ricardo.
Well, I'm older than you, so. So what
happened from there was I realized that the business model limited my ability to grow, because schools could only afford so much. I could only speak so many times a year. So you multiply those two together, and that's my maximum earning potential. So I started to ask myself different questions, which was like, how could I earn more in, doing what it is that I'm doing? And that led me to learning about like information marketing and how to package my knowledge and how to sell it in courses and programs and memberships. And so I started exploring that. And of course, the natural extension of that is being able to sell your knowledge and what it is that you know to a much wider audience and selling it online. And so the long story short is that not only did I start packaging my information and selling it to schools in different ways, which immediately increased my income, but I also started to see that there were other people that could benefit from what it is that I was sharing with students, and that was entrepreneurs. And so I started appealing and sharing my information and selling to a much broader audience, which then eventually led me down the road to realizing that I wanted to find more ways to leverage my information and what it is that I was doing. So there was a couple in between moments. One in here was I also started a consulting business at this time, sharing with people like how I was growing my business and helping them manage affiliate programs. And that took off, and it was a very lucrative business. But again, I was running into the same problem with the business model. And that was, I had all these clients that were paying me good money. Like I was earning good money, but there was a limit. The only way to grow that business was to give more time. And I didn't have any more time to give. And so that's again when I made another shift. I was asking myself, how can I share this information but not be limited by the number of people that I'm serving? And ultimately that led me to memberships. Now I knew nothing about membership sites, nothing, but I knew that it gave me the opportunity to be able to teach once and sell to many.
And by the way, say what is membership, because people might not know exactly what is membership.
So we're probably all familiar with Netflix. Okay. Yeah. So Netflix is a great example of a membership. We pay a monthly fee and we get access to all kinds of information. In this case, it's entertainment, right? TV shows, movies, whatever it be. But the bottom line is that we pay on a monthly basis, a subscription, and we get access to stuff online. And so a membership is very much the same way, where people pay me on a monthly basis and they get access to my stuff. They pay you on a monthly basis, Ricardo, they get access to your stuff. So that's essentially what a membership is, just like Netflix, where we pay Netflix on a monthly basis, we get access to the Netflix stuff. Oh, my dog's going crazy. The male person's come. But Callie.
Hashtag real life.
Oh, yes. Hang on one second. Callie, come here. Hey. Enough.
Ok, people, estamos aqui com o Stu e o Stu foi agora exatamente ver o Kelly e volta e precede os documentos. Ok.
Yeah. There she is. See, this is the culprit.
Hey, Kelly!
Yeah.
How you doing, girl?
Yes, girl. Okay. So that's what a membership is. And so what I realized was that people could pay me on a monthly basis.
Isto é o que se chama working from home. Hashtag working from home, exatamente.
Oh my goodness. The mailman's dropping a big box off and she's not sure, what he's doing and why he's staying so long. So that's why she's barking. Come here. Just come here. We'll do this part like this. Okay. So what that enabled me to do, Ricardo, was basically now create a lot more leverage in my business. So now instead of working one-on-one with clients, now I was working one-to-many. I was able to take what it is that I was doing for clients, but I was teaching it to a lot more people. And therefore I had no limits on the number of people that I could serve, because whether 5 people were accessing that information or 5,000 people were accessing that information, it took the same amount of time. And that was a huge key turning point for me. However, in 2008, when we were looking to do this, when I was looking to make this transition, the technology then is not what it is today.
Oh no.
So setting up a membership site, it was no easy task. Yeah. And I'm comfortable with a computer, but I'm not like a programmer. So I was struggling to set this up, and I was talking to a friend of mine and explaining that, all I want to do is I just want to teach. I just want to teach and sell my information. And I said, all of this HT access files and server settings and that stuff is freaking me out. And so he said, look, why don't we partner together and we'll create the ultimate membership solution. And I said to him, dude, did you not hear what I just said? I am not a programmer. How am I going to be able to help create something? And he said, look, I have a very good programmer that works with me. You're very clear on the type of solution that you want. We partner together, we can make this happen. So we did. And a few months later, a product called Wishlist Member was born. And Wishlist Member went on to become the world's #1 membership platform for WordPress. And before I knew it, that company took off. It was right product, right time. It served a real need. And we were powering tens of thousands of membership sites in all kinds of different markets. And in that, I started to really learn like what people were doing to grow successful memberships. And that ultimately led us to where we are today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you founded the Tribe, which is an amazing program. And so what are the three objections that usually people have when they think about, okay, let's do a subscription model, okay, let's go for a membership, but no, there are three things or a few things that I don't like, so I don't go forward?
Well, one would be tech, right? Like, so the tech was the stuff that was freaking me out in 2008, but now today, the technology is so simple and advanced that you don't need to be a programmer to set things up, and you can do it very, very quickly. In fact, I was sharing with you off camera before we went live that our new, software, we just did a demo where we showed people how we set up a membership site in less than 3 minutes, and people were blown away. But that's just kind of where we are now. Like, the technology has advanced so much that now it's so easy and fast to be able to set things up. The second big objection that I commonly see is that people say, well, I don't have an audience yet. Like, I need to wait until my audience gets big. I need an audience of tens of thousands. And no, you don't. In fact, you don't need tens of thousands. You don't even need thousands. All you need is just a couple hundred people. And we see this day in and day out. Like, for example, Brandy is a perfect example of this. She didn't have a big audience. She had less than 400 people. Now, these are 400 people who were following her on like Instagram and Facebook. So she didn't have like this big, gigantic audience, 400 people. Well, she did what we call a founding member launch. And it's a super simple, easy way to invite people to join you in your membership before you've even created your membership, okay? So she did this. She welcomed 23 monthly paying members. Now, we might think, okay, 23, that's good, but like, that's not going to pay, the mortgage, and it's not going to like, pay for the cars and the food and and 2 young ones with diapers, and it's not gonna do all those things. But it's a start. And here's what happened. In a 1-year period, Brandy built on top of that momentum. And this is the whole thing that I want everybody to realize. Like, we sometimes envision the finish line, but we forget that to get to the finish line, we got to create momentum in between. And when you get started, that is where the momentum begins to build, and things can happen so fast if you let it happen. And so this was the case with Brandy. So she started with 23 members. Now, in a 1-year period, her membership grew from 23 members to a multi-6-figure business that blossomed to hundreds of members in her membership. It ultimately led to her creating a course and a mastermind and so many other things. But none of that would have happened had she not going with her founding member launch to less than 400 people that welcomed 23 founding members. So I share this because there are so many examples of this, whether it's Brandy, whether it's Faye over in England, there are tons and tons of examples of this that I can share. But the bottom line is that, like, you don't need an audience of tens of thousands or thousands. You just need an audience of a few hundred people. And Ricardo, you and I both know that the 99% of the people watching and listening to this probably already have that available to them. They just don't even realize it. So tech is a big obstacle, but that's obsolete now because tech is so simple. People think they need a big audience. That's just not true. And we see so many examples of that. I've got another good example because I know a lot of your audience are offline business owners. So we can talk about that if you want afterwards. And then the third big example or third big mistake I see a lot of people make is they think that they have to create a whole lot of content. So for example, let's think about Netflix. So, people are like, okay, membership site, Netflix. Okay, I see that, Stu. Yeah, but wait a minute. Netflix has thousands and thousands of movies and TV shows, and I don't want to be on the hook to create all this content. That sounds exhausting. Yeah, and it is. P.S. Here's the good news. You actually don't need to create thousands and thousands of hours of content. In fact, what we have seen working with tens of thousands of membership site owners is actually the complete opposite. Less is better. And what I mean by that is that the number one reason that people cancel from a traditional membership site is overwhelm, meaning that they're overwhelmed by the sheer volume of content. When they're trying to learn how to go from A to B, they don't want a whole bunch of content. They just want the exact content that's going to help them every step of the way. So whereas Netflix is more of an entertainment-based membership, most memberships are teaching people how to solve a problem or how to learn a new skill. And in those cases, you don't want to bombard people with a whole lot of content. All you want to do is you want to become a filter in giving people the few things that are going to matter most to them to be able to make progress. So those are the three big mistakes. Thinking that like tech is the hiccup. No, tech is so simple now. You can do it pretty quick and pretty fast. Thinking that you need a big audience. Nope, not true. And thinking that you need to create a whole lot of content. That's not true either.
Wow. So that's amazing. So people are listening and they go like, yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome. I have to do a membership, but now what kind of membership should I do? You know, it's like, and especially people that are thinking offline, they go like, I have no idea. So what could be, you know, on the opposite, what could be 3 things that they could do, you know, to
listen, like I'll give you a couple of examples. So when my family and I were traveling, when we could travel, we were in Hawaii, and long story short, I needed a last minute haircut because we were flying home like that day, and the barbers that I was going to when we were in Hawaii, they were all booked up. And so I had to get a haircut before I left because I was a mess. So anyway, so I called around and I found this guy who was a traveling barber. So he basically came to you. And so I'm talking to him, and as he's, you know, cutting my hair, and he was telling me that, I mean, he is booked all the time. He used to work in a barber shop. He makes 3 times as much money being a mobile barber because he can charge more, and he had a whole process for attracting new customers using like Yelp reviews. And I said to him, like, dude, this is amazing. I said, are you teaching this stuff? And he said, no, like, why would I teach it? I'm like, okay, time out. Dude, there are so many barbers around the world who would love to hear how to triple their income, how to create more flexibility, and to be able to have the process and system to be able to do that. I said, you could make as much, if not more, teaching people how you're doing this as you will and actually doing it. So one of the things that I would share with people is that whether you are making things, whether you're providing a service of some kind like he was as a barber, you can make as much, if not more, teaching people how to do that online because you're appealing to a much broader audience. The other thing that I would say is that if you sell products and like sell physical things, I would encourage you to think about like a product-based membership. So I'll give you an example there. So when COVID hit, obviously it changed the game for a lot of entrepreneurs because a lot of entrepreneurs who depend on people coming into their store or coming to them for some type of service, all of that came to a crashing halt because of COVID. And there was a woman who lives not far from us here. Her name's Steph. And Steph has a business it's a microblading business. I didn't know what this is, but basically she helps women, you know, trim their eyebrows and shape their eyebrows.
Wow. That's a niche. That's what you call a niche, right?
But clearly, like, I didn't know what this is because I got the bushiest eyebrows you can find. But anyway, but it's a service. And, you know, she had a very successful business providing this type of service. But with COVID, she couldn't do it anymore. And not only that, but she had close to $14,000 of pre-booked business that she had to refund because her clients couldn't come in.
Yeah.
So she was scrambling, and she came through our tribe training, and she realized, like, hold on a minute, like, I could provide a different type of service. So what she ultimately did was she created a subscription box. So she sends a box to her customers every single month. And in the box are like beauty products that she was selling in her store. And so the amazing part about this was she didn't have a big audience of tens of thousands or thousands. She had an audience of about 250 regular customers that were coming into her store. So she did a launch to them. And the crazy part is, and you'll find this with smaller audiences, when you've got a smaller audience, you can build a deeper relationship with that audience. And Steph had a great relationship with those customers. And so of the 250, she welcomed just over 100 of them into her monthly paying subscription box. It immediately generated over $10,000 a month for her, which during COVID was a godsend because that helped bridge that period where she had no income coming in. And, you know, to say that she had no income coming in, she had no income coming in, but she still had bills. She still had, like, you know, to pay for rent, and she had still staff and stuff. So it allowed her to bridge that gap. Now, the amazing part was this was a few months ago. She's still grown that membership. She's over 150 now plus people who belong to that membership. And it's a great example of somebody who had a physical brick and mortar business who turned her brain on and asked, what else could I provide my customers that I could send on a regular basis? And she knew that her customers bought products from her when they came into the store, beauty products. So she connected the dots. She created a subscription box that delivers these beauty products on a regular basis, and her customers pay her month in and month out. So she's taken a customer that would only normally pay her one time and hoping that they would come back to now a customer who pays her every single month. So there's lots of different ways to structure a membership. There's a product-based membership like Steph. There's a knowledge-based membership like what you and I do, where we sell our expertise and our information, and people pay us on a regular basis to access that. And then there's service-based memberships as well, where we get, for example, organic fruits and vegetables delivered straight to our door every single week. And we pay a subscription for that. And the reason that I'm willing to pay for it rather than go to the farmer's market or to the grocery store is because it's so much more convenient. And so I'm paying for convenience. So there's different types of memberships. They can be structured in different ways. But I'm here to tell you that whether you have an online business or a brick and mortar business, when you have subscriptions and memberships as part of your business model, it creates stability. So no matter what, like Steph, if COVID happens and people can't come into her store, she still has income coming in from her membership and subscription.